Okay, so starting off, we're going to go over Marvel double feature starring Captain America and Iron Man. This is issue 18, sold for only 30 cents. Uh, by the way, I'm not going to be covering the Captain America annual. If you want to see that, either click a card in the top right somewhere or wait until it comes out. I think I might put that out before this. I'm not exactly sure, but whatever. That won't be in the video because I went on about it for way too long. I got to hurry through these so I don't make a video for each and every one of these. The art here definitely reflects the time. Came out in the 70s. It was like 77, something like that. Let me check down here. 76. Wow, I was good. I remembered. October of 1976. So only 30 cents. Crazy. I don't pick up these issues from this time period very often, but it was a gift, and there was a good deal on it. I know because I helped the person pick it out. But nonetheless, the art's cool here a bit. I don't want to say clunky because it works for what it is, but a bit more stiff. That's not necessarily a bad thing, right? It actually fits with the writing style. The writing style, has that verbose kind of way that writers at the time kind of spoke. Not as wordy as I had expected, but nonetheless, because of that, it makes sense that it has stiffer, so to speak, art, because there's so much progression in terms of the narrative. They need to keep it going, so you don't get to, but in a way it kind of works with what they're going for. You don't see Captain America run and then leap. You just see him leaping. You just see him land. You see him go behind something, duck down with the shield up, so you can imagine that he probably has to roll, and then he has to hunker down. He might even have ran and jumped on a different floor. We don't know, but it works with the way that it's written because it still flows well enough, and there's enough dichotomy between both the art and the writing, and that's what makes a good comic. And since that dichotomy, since a word of the day, since that cohesion is there between both sides of what makes a comic book, it works well. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, and if anything, it's a good breath of fresh air when compared to the way it is nowadays. The way it is nowadays, it's almost the opposite. The wording is far less, and every single panel is much more about the movement of the characters and trying to visually illustrate what you can also just illustrate through the wording. I more prefer it being depicted through words rather than seeing everything. But my favorite is probably my favorite style of the time is probably 10 years after this, when it's kind of in between. But also I think that I may be biased just because of what I grew up reading in particular. But nonetheless, this issue is pretty simple. It mostly features AIM. What are they? They're called advanced intelligence something or other. We'll see it in the next issue. In the next issue here, it's a 2-in-1 after all, and the story is quite fast paced, more so than just because of the writing being sort of so verbose. You jump from scene to scene between these various panels. It flows though, don't get me wrong, but on top of that, it's only 16 pages in total here, and the story basically involves two sides. You have Modok doing his various bad things. It seems as if this may be a first appearance of Modok. I'm not exactly sure. I'll put something on screen, hopefully. I don't know. Editing is hard when you don't got a computer. But anyways, we'll see. But I don't know if this is a first appearance or not. But either way, the point nonetheless is that Modok is engineering his own device that's going to cause bad things to happen, so to speak. We get a bit of knowledge about how his armchair works, and the interesting thing is that's important because we get to see Captain America throw his shield and knock off certain parts. But more than just that, we have the other side of things. AIM, the guys that work for Modok are tired of his being bossed around by him, and basically want to take matters in their own hands, more than just in terms of crime, but also plenty of them just want to get out of the base and want to live their lives. So they run off, and before they run off, they let Captain America in on purpose in order to have Cap destroy Modok, and to help them out, they fire at Modok from behind when they have their chance. And that's important because of the mind belt that Modok has, and his infamous powers. He's able to know when things are going to happen before they happen, read people's minds, kind of read the room. So this was the distraction they needed to basically shoot Modok and run free. So that basically happens, and along the way we get a bit of Cap's girl that has to help out here and there as well, which is cool. And the whole place blows up, and we seemingly see the end of Modok, but we know it wasn't the end. But he transfers his consciousness, right? Creates the power. Yeah, I believe that's it. But anyways, it was a fun issue nonetheless, and very much of the time. Nothing really super significant happens, but it's well done enough and very cheesy and over the top. Alone Against AIM, however, I'm not as big of a fan of. It was good, but it was fine. It worked for what it was, but I wasn't crazy about it. I'll tell you why in a minute. First off, though, it involves AIM once again, and more than just that. Does it involve? No, yeah, it just involves AIM. That's the connect. I thought there was another piece of connective tissue here, but it's just the group here. And this group, by the way, is called, it tells you here in a minute. I always forget. Maybe it's not just in a minute here. Got a lot of ads there. Stands for Advanced Idea Mechanics. At least we think that's what the letters of AIM stand for. Correct us if we're wrong, will you, Pilgrim? Insecure Stan. So they capture Tony Stark is doing his business. It seems to be carrying on from events that happened prior. But anyways, he breaks into this local base and they capture him. They had a trap waiting for them, or attempt to basically clone his armor, 3D printed, if you will, and outsuit their own guys with it. And this is all under the helm of this mad scientist, as you can see here. But what will happen next, we don't know. You don't get a lot of progression here. You get a number of pages, but it's all mostly talking about the science doodads as to how they're making his armor, basically copying his armor. And I feel like it just kind of slows things down. It doesn't feel as dynamic in that sense. Because the story just doesn't progress enough. It's left on a cliffhanger here, but it didn't really seem like it needed to. It spends forever explaining where this is my complaints. It wasn't bad overall, but they spend so long building up to them copying the armor that it felt as if it was kind of a cop-out. Along with this, they have so many continuations between the last storyline that it just kind of felt... I don't know. It felt like I was cheated. They had the first few pages continuing from the last story. So if you hadn't read that, you won't really understand it. And then on top of that, the last few pages of the story, it's already only like 17 other pages roughly, because there's 34 pages in total, I think. But anyways, it was only like 17 pages. The first few pages were all transitory, and the last few pages were all kind of setting you up for the next one. And kind of explaining all the doodads and such. So really, there's only a few main pages of actual plot, right? It's all just mostly cleanup and setup, and that's okay if it was like, I don't know, that would have been okay. Like it would have been fine if there was just more here. Like if there was only a few pages of stuff in between, and if that was really dynamic or something and it was really felt impactful, it would have been different. But really, he just basically gets captured and they clone his armor, and that's and that's about it. So not exactly as big of a fan of the Iron Man story, but nonetheless, they both were still fun. It took me way too long to cover, but we got issues I haven't read with the Bloodstone Hunt, part 1 of 6. This is issue 357. We're getting more to what I'm used to with Captain America. I'll flip through some pages here. This is during, this isn't too far after where I quit reading, which was, I think, 351. Not because I wanted to, but because I don't have those issues yet. I'm waiting to pick them up. So it's nice to continue things here. And I haven't read this issue yet because I don't have enough of the rest of the Bloodstone Hunt for me to really say I should probably go read it. But it looks like you got some BDSM chicks with this guy with the cross here. He looks it looks like the guy that started the Satanic Church or something. I don't know what's going on here. It looks kind of kinky. Anyway, so you got Captain America. I guess he beats him up, but then something happens, and there's this Bloodstone. And this Bloodstone story arc is six parts, as it says before here, and overall, they got to find these stones. Bad stuff will happen if they do find the stones. And as far as I know, it's a way for them to throw in a cavalcade of previous Captain America cronies and villains involving like Baron Zemo here, as you can see. So it sounds like a fun story that I'm interested in reading. Cool advertisement on the back here. What's this? Some bike. Complete line. Interesting. Anyways, cool cover there. I like that, but will it be good? Who knows? We'll see in a few issues, or you'll see in a forthcoming video. There you go. Well, you'll see in a forthcoming video. That's good. And then we got after the Bloodstone heist. Oh, the Bloodstone hunt. Sorry, the Bloodstone hunt is over. We move on to Captain America 363, and we get a cleanup issue. I read a good half of this before I was like, well, I love Captain America so much. I was like, should I read this and then reread it when I get the other Bloodstone issues? No, I'm not going to. You got a butt shot there. But more importantly, what's more beautiful than that is is the nighttime scene. I love nighttime scenes, especially from the artists that commonly follow around Mr. Grunwald. You got breakdown, finishes, letters. I guess they're two different artists here. I don't know, whatever. Point is, the artists that normally follow Grunwald around are normally my favorite. This art overall, though, I didn't think was as good as what was going on during Grunwald's infamous the Captain storyline, but quite a long one there. And there was multiple artists there, but it was mostly one or two, I think. And those I prefer in terms of overall, but nonetheless, this artist still does quite a good job. There's a lot of good lighting work here. I always love that. And the depictions of the Diamondback, of the fan favorite Diamondback, is a little more, how would you say? She shows a little more skin in with this artist's depiction, and also just later on during these kind of span of issues, the 360s it seems. So that's kind of a plus depending on how you look at it. But nonetheless, this is cleanup. Crossbones has captured Diamondback because he had previously in the Bloodstone heist, and is trying to take her across the world they traveled the world with all these various villains. Everybody was chasing after these Bloodstones, and now they got to get back to their normal status quo. Crossbones is going to drop off Diamondback to the Red Skull, and yeah, that's about it. Captain America has to save her. That's the gist there. Cool cover there. I like the colors. Moving on, though, we have an issue I have read. Let me move these out of the way so you can see better. It gets too high up, stacking these issues up. I got a lot of problems with that with my Batman video, which should be out by the time these are coming out, these videos. But Acts of Vengeance 365. I read this one. I got some stuff to say. I read this literally, I guess it was yesterday and today, because I fell asleep. That's what happens. But this is part of a multi-series spanning story arc, which is cool. You just go from one cool event to another, really. But this event is less so one that you have to follow to completion, which I like. They definitely try to lure you into that towards the end, and you get some cool Tydo advertisements. They try and lure you into reading the other issues in the end, but really you do get a complete story for the most part. You get what you paid for. You get Captain America versus Namor. And although it takes probably too long, in my opinion, to get up to that point, nonetheless, it fizzles out kind of quick. You still get the fight, and the fight is entertaining. In between that, though, you get a kind of cool setup to the other issues and kind of learn why the fight happened to begin with, involving the Red Skull hiring a new crony, which I imagine we're going to see in subsequent issues after this series. I don't remember. It wasn't in Streets of Poison. He, Mr. whatever his name is, Controller or something. Anyways, he has these little discs he throws, and he can control people, so he controls Namor. But why are they doing all this? Well, it all ties into Loki, who's going around between these different Marvel series at the time, the big Marvel series, and he's convincing the various heroes in their series, he's convincing their villains to team up and throw a curveball, so to speak, at their reviled their reviled hero. So to fight Captain America, they throw Namor at him, and in other series they throw like in the X-Men series, they have to throw, I don't know who, I don't remember actually. I was going to tell you, but I forgot. They have to throw a hero or villain from a different series in to fight those X-Men characters. Does that make sense? X-Men guys have to fight some kind of villain or hero that's not from their series. So in this, Captain America fights Namor, and another, the X-Men or the Fantastic Four or what have you fight different characters that they shouldn't. I think somebody fights, was it Doctor Doom? I don't remember exactly. But anyways, there you go. That's the plot. And that's all set up by Loki. And it takes quite a while. You only get a few pages of the actual fight, but I can't really be too mad. It's well written. It's fun. The fight is fun, but even the setup is also great as well. And if you're not too much into that, you probably might be a little bummed about the issue. If you're not into kind of the inner workings of the series where you got to see Red Skull hire someone. And before that, you have the whole thing about the mansion, the Avengers mansion disappearing. And that's what leads Namor to come into the vicinity of the disc dude, the controller or whatever. So then he gets lured in because the Avengers headquarters had sunk in. So Namor goes and checks it out. This dude that was hired by the Red Skull throws the disc at him and then controls his mind and then gets him to fight Captain America, all because of this whole Loki thing. And if you're not interested in all that setup and only, you get 2 pages of action there, but really the main fight is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is it 6 pages? No, only 5 pages. So in the whole, close to 30-page comic, you only get 5 pages of the actual fights you came for. But if you're okay with that, you get a cool backup story too, I gotta mention. But if you're okay with that, then, you'll like it for certainly. But if you're one of those people that aren't exactly a fan of the setup, if you're not really a fan of the Captain America series, you're not real big into it and the inner workings of the villains and such, you're not really going to find too much in this issue to make you entertained. And overall, you may want to skip this issue. I'm the kind of person that I just enjoy everything about this series from this era. This whole era here, from head to toe, no matter what it is, I pretty much enjoy, because I love these characters and seeing how they progress, how they interwork, and how their relations are updated throughout the issues. But if you're not into those kinds of things, you're just here for the throwing the punches, watching people fight, you're not really going to get as much as you're not going to get your dollar's worth back in the day. You might not get your money's worth. $1. Man, I wish they were that cheap nowadays. The Cobra hide and seek. Well, they're not that much more though, thankfully. The Cobra hide and seek. This is really, really cool that they carried up on this. I'm gonna actually show you what I'm talking about. So, the Cobra and Hyde. The Cobra hide and seek. Man, besides that being a good pun, this was crazy. This is a short backup story here. Backup stories nowadays almost seem, superfluous, but these back in the day actually seem to really not always. Some of them are good. There's a handful of good ones in Batman Fear State, which I have covered already. I've done the video, so whenever these post, hopefully you'll see what I'm talking about then. But nonetheless, back in the day, they really tied into, normally from the series I've read, back in this time period, we're talking late 80s, they really seem to tie them into what was actually going on. So here we have Loki appear once again, mysterious figure, and appear with to the Cobra as well in the Serpent Society. which at this point has reformed. They have a new base and everything because of what happened in previous issues. So with their reformed base and trying to set things back up again, you get some kind of information about that, which is interesting. And the Cobra not feeling like he lives up as being the replacement for their previous leader that had fallen. He doesn't really feel like he's really a good fit to lead the team, but nonetheless he's trying to do so, and you get a cool inner monologue. But on top of that, the whole Loki thing, he's trying to tie them into what's going on with the main story, trying to, what's it called, Acts of Vengeance. There you go. Trying to tie them into that whole Acts of Vengeance thing and have them team up as well and be thrown against heroes they normally wouldn't fight in order to take them down. So that's real cool. You get updates about what's going on with the Serpent Society, and if that's not good enough within this, whatever 5 or 6 page backup story, on top of that, you get a fight that we've been waiting almost like freaking 20 years, 25 years to get to. So here we have what I think. I'll have to put something on screen here, but as far as I know, this is the first appearance of the Human Cobra. Certainly the first one I read. This was my childhood, man. And to see a storyline that is finally being finished, like that I haven't, we're talking 10 years later, I'm finally finishing a story arc and a storyline that at the time was like 25 something years in the making. The Cobra versus Hyde. They originally, were introduced as separate characters in the Thor series, as far as I know, and they both had problems fighting Thor here. This is Journey into the Mystery, issue 98. This is from 63, I believe, something like that, maybe even a little before that. Oh, did I show my name there? Anyways, whatever. Super cool here. Only a few issues later, you had the first appearance, I believe, of Mr. Hyde. After that, I believe I had it. Just a minute. And then, a few issues later in 99, or is it a few? Anyway, whatever. You got Mr. Hyde. And this was cool as well. Cool introduction. Great one from what I remember. Haven't read it in ages. But then after that, a little while later, you get to see them team up. And when they team up, they have a falling out towards the end of the issue. And Hyde basically says that if he ever catches that, slimy snake, so to speak, you could say the Cobra slipped between his hands. But nonetheless, when he gets his hands on his slimy body, he's going to kill the Cobra. And this literally has been decades. Here we go. 105, Journey into the Mystery, 105, back on the rampage again, the Cobra and Mr. Hyde. I don't want to crush my issue below it, but it's not going to be on there for very long. So at the end of this issue here, they talk specifically about that, I believe. I think it was the end of this issue. We told you this was a double-length Marvel masterpiece, and we meant it. Next issue featured the conclusion. Yeah, okay. So you got Tales of Asgard, great little series there. So you get the conclusion with 106, and then towards the end of this, it's just so cool. It blew my mind, man. So all the way, very end here. What's the conclusion? One of them ends up in jail, right? What happens? I believe the Cobra slips away, and Hyde gets arrested or whatever. Something like that. Gets thrown through there. Something like that, but whatever. Nonetheless, you get to see them fight. This is where it all started. And since then, they had a falling out. I thought it had to do with one of them getting caught. But yes, it looks like it. And finally, after all these years, literally, this was like 60s, man. This was early 60s. This is 88, 89? What is this? This is 89. That's crazy. They're finally concluding it. It's next, High Snakes. So the next issue, the backup story will feature supposedly the concluding fight between Mr. Hyde and the Cobra. The Cobra sneaks into, in order to try and make himself feel as if he's really the boss. I was talking about before that he has basically, doubts that he can really lead the Cobra Society. He thinks, well, I can never fully lead the Cobra Society as long as my long-standing nemesis is around. I must finally take him out. So he finally is going to, and I'm super excited to read the next backup story. If I wasn't so much into collecting these issues, I'd just slither on down. All my puns here. I'd slither on down online and read it illegally. But nonetheless, I'm going to wait. I'm going to get the next issue, and I'm going to have a heyday reading the conclusion in the making. Will they actually do it? Will one of them die, or are they going to have it be a cop-out? I don't know. We'll have to find out. That was super exciting. And then we get the letter pages here. The issue on its own, as I was kind of mentioning, you may not be, super into, depending on how much you're into your Captain America update, how much you're into the serialization and just kind of learning more about the characters and what's going on this month with the characters. If you're not super into that, and you're just here for the action, you may feel like you're shortchanged a bit unless you're really into this style at the time, or if you're into the backup story. But because I'm into all of it, I had a heck of a lot of fun reading this issue. Next up, we got just issue after issue. This is 3 comic books later with issue 368. We're just going from story to story of, some of these aren't exactly big hits, some of these aren't exactly like monumental, but they're all just really fun. And it's crazy that, Grunwald keeps doing it again and again. There's a reason why he's probably my favorite writer, but more than just nostalgia. No, this is not nostalgia. It kind of, but part of it probably is, but nonetheless, I love his writing, and, we get to continue the story of where these characters are, and we're a few issues later here, and a recent event that has happened previously has left this building. What is it? A secret operatives building nearby, Smith building, secret headquarters. Yeah. So Mr. Smith, which is the identity currently of the Red Skull, a secret base that he has that's headquarters, America's Greatest Menace. Anyways, his secret headquarters gets invaded by an event that happened previously. Some mutants, I think, got loose. So they tore amok, ran amok and tore through this underground base. And the Red Skull is missing. Boss is missing. So Crossbones and this guy, I forget what his name is here. He's like the Tinker or whatever. The Tinker, there you go. Guys, makes all the contraptions for the Red Skull and his empire. They have to try and figure out who captured the boss and have to get him back. So that's real cool, and what to do in the meantime while he's gone. So that's real cool, and if you're not interested in those characters, you're not going to find all that interesting. That's like half the issue later on here. And the whole issue almost feels like, again, cleaning house. There's a lot of just updates to what's going on, but there's enough new things here too that if you're into, if you're not super picky on how much action and such you want to see, you'll have a fun time. But if you are really, that's all you look for, it's similar to the Acts of Vengeance one. If you really want to, just read some people fighting and punching each other, you're not really going to get a whole lot of that. You get some of it, but you're going to get mostly updates to what's going on and some compelling ties and news about what's going on, and characters twisting and turning around each other, and alliances changing, and all sorts of stuff like that. And that's what you got across a lot of these issues. So here we have the Tinker comes up with an idea. They think it might be Magneto that took him. I forget what the lead of why they think that is. Whatever. Point is, they think Magneto might have took him, and overall they think that the way to get mutants' attention is to have the Tinker whip up he already had it whipped up in the past just in case, a bot of Magneto. And they're going to basically have this robot go to a mutant rally, and that's going to rile everybody up and cause a big stir. Captain America is going to come in and save the day, and they're going to try and see what happens and see if they can get any kind of news, possibly capture a mutant, that flies by, see if Captain America knows what's up, whatever. So that's the closest thing they have to a plan. But on top of that, in the meantime, they have someone. What is it? I'll handle this guy. They have someone take up, basically be a surrogate Red Skull in the meantime, if I remember correctly. Yes. It's a robot, right? Yes, it's a simulation of Mr. Smith here and the actual, the Red Skull. So they're leaving this simulation, is what they call it. I guess he's like a automaton, a like robot of some kind. So anyways, they're doing that. And then you got updates about Diamondback. She's might join back with the Serpent Society, and she's tired of the way that Captain America is kind of dragging her along. It's dumb. The way that they're kind of progressing her character. They had her where she was, obviously originally she was bad. I mean, if you read the series at all, you probably know that. But she turned good, and then it was like she kind of wanted to be bad again, and now she's kind of leaning towards that. So it's a whole thing. Kind of a dumb drama. I kind of wish it was just she'd pick a lane, man. Pick a lane, girl. But nonetheless, you get some progression on that, and then you get the big fight. The thing you came for, the thing you bought your ticket for. And you get to see a fake Magneto fight Captain America. He instantly pretty much knows what's up, and the fight doesn't last all too long. So if you're just looking for the updates, you're definitely going to get it. But if you're just here for the action, you're not going to get a whole lot. But towards the end, we get a bit of details involving Black Witch, which is a mutant, I guess. I've never seen her before, but she kind of sets the seedlings for the next issue. But before it's over, we get another backup story. This involves the Tinkerer talking about how he got into tinkering, which is perfect. He's a character that's existed, in a lot of these issues, but you never got to see him. You didn't see him like a ton, so it's great to learn more about him and see his origins told once again in the series, and it's just like every question I have, they just answer for me, and so many issues of the modern day rely on you needing to just know things. And although that's pretty much a standard in comic books, I feel like there was so much more give and take. There was so much more given to you when you bought an issue back in the day. Because of the more wordy style, they were able to just kind of fit in little nudges to get you to kind of get the gist of what's going on. And overall, even if you don't have that, it would just be nice if a lot more modern series kind of wrote their writing in a way where you can kind of infer who people are or people's alliances without needing to go back and read the issue. I mean, either tell me or at least nudge me, and on top of that, besides nudging you about who the Tinkerer was before, if you hadn't known, they give you a whole backup story in the back telling you, right? It's not like in Fear State Batman where some of the backup stories matter, but a lot of them don't. A lot of them just are advertisements for other series, which I'll go into that video if you haven't seen it. It should be coming out sometime. I have it done. I just don't know when it's going to be uploaded. But this is great because it actually tells you about the character that was in the story so you can know more about him. And even then, it's not even required, but it tells you a whole complex, 5 or 6 page backstory, giving you just enough details so you know everything you really need to know about him and his various lives he's lived. He's become a robot himself. Very cool. Awesome issue in my opinion, but that's just because I love Captain America. I love those updates. But next up we have issue 369. And for issue 369, it's a good number there because you get quite a bit of fan service on the cover. I'm telling you, I read Captain America for the comic book, okay? It's not what you think. So this Black Witch bitch continues onwards, and we get to the story just kind of picks up here. They didn't really transition it and go into the whole mutant side and Magneto all too well. This is actually just a setup for another issue, which I was a bit bummed out that they didn't really kind of, I don't want to say that you need to settle it, but I wish there was more involved with, I don't know, maybe I'm just, maybe I'm the chump here, but I wish there was more updates involving the world. We got that in the last issue. I get they want to have action, but there was I don't want to say there was a bit too much action, but for me, there kind of was. There's a lot of action. It was good. And you get all the characters coming to head. You get Diamondback and her allegiances, start to pop up more. And on top of that, you get to see her help run in. She's investigating the mystery herself as to what's going on, and eventually kind of ends up in the sewer with Cap. Along with that, Crossbones and the various cronies of the Red Skull are going through and trying to catch up with these mutants that they think are responsible. And that's basically the gist, and that they all come together, right? Got the Red Skull group, you got Diamondback doing her own investigating, you got Captain America that wants to follow up what happened before, with the robot Magneto, and then you got the Black Witch, and she's leading the charge here in this cave. I forget what she was even doing, but she's running down there. She's trying to figure out what happened. And at first, I think she thought it was actually Magneto. So she was interested, but later on she figures out wasn't Magneto, but thinks that there's something up and wants to, make sure something's not too up, wants to make sure that she can clean up whatever mess is going on. I don't know. Basically every character comes together in this one place because they keep getting leads that are leading them to this specific area. Do I actually know what happened? No, not really. It's just kind of a cavalcade, a huge menagerie of Captain America Goonies. You get the big robot. I forget what his name is. I forget the name. And then you got the Sister of Sin herself, Mother Superior, I think is her name, and a few others, and they all have to fight each other, basically. That's the gist. I really don't remember anything all too particularly interesting happening, and I know it's like, well, isn't that what you want? No, I know, I'm probably in the minority, but the whole action thing, like, I feel like action, I only get real interested if there's like a compelling reason for it. I'm just not the kind of person that's just like, I get wowed by punches and throws and all this kind of stuff. And like, I enjoy that for sure. Don't get me wrong. It's an action series after all, but it just kind of seems like they all just kind of came together just because. And I read this probably like a week ago, 5 days ago. So, and I've read things since then. So maybe I'm like forgetting something, but for the most part, from what I remember, they just kind of all come together. And the other issue I read further back than that, a day or two before, and I remembered so much of that. There was so many details to keep track of, yet I remembered all of it. So that really shows how much of a lamer follow-up this is, but it's not like it's a bad issue. You want to know what happens next. It's just, and the art's still very cool. I like the art for sure, but really the backup story is what sells it. Really, they're doing, man, when the backup story is better than the actual comic, and you in 5 or 6 pages, you get me to go like, oh, what? In 5 or 6 pages? Like, that's impressive, man. This was really good. You can tell I really like Captain America because I'm like, I get ecstatic when they do certain things, and this got me ecstatic. Out of his skull, the Red Skull out of his skull. This is short, like a follow-up, whatever you want to call it, a backup story, like a backup story is, but it does everything it needs to do. It's super wordy, but it fits with what it does, and it basically follows the Red Skull being captured by, I don't think we know who captured him yet. Again, it was mutants we thought before, but like what mutants and why did they capture him? I don't think we know yet. But anyways, nonetheless, got bullpen bulletins here. Those are always fun to read. But anyways, we got the Red Skull captured. He's in like a sensory deprivation tank, so to speak. He's in I don't know if that's actually what it is, but he's in like a pitch black room where he can't see literally anything. But because he's left within the darkness, you would think the darkness is that in which he it's that in which he's known to dwell. How can the Red Skull lose his mind within the dark if he himself is the dark? Well, as we saw earlier in the past, depending on what issues you've read, you've actually learned the Red Skull has a lot more, I don't want to say heart, but kind of has a lot more, especially under the Grunwald writing era. they really, through his work, Grunwald added a lot more details to the Red Skull and humanized him a lot more. And I love that they did that. And through that, we're able to see that despite the blackness of the place in which he is currently dwelling, being something that you would think he would find home in, he doesn't. When he's left to his own machinations of his mind, he's driven he's driven further into madness than he arguably already is, and the void basically consumes him. And through this, we're able to see these aforementioned machinations from various points within his life and legacy come to a head and conflict with him. And this storytelling structure allows and format allowed for, within only 5 or 6 pages, allowed for them to dive deeper into the Red Skull character. And a lot of it's just kind of recaps of things that we already kind of know have happened if you've been following the series very closely. But nonetheless, it's real cool to see, and kind of touches back on the demons, the inner demons of the Red Skull in a different light than what we've seen before, and all depicted within a very simplistic, yet, in my opinion, quite well done art style with the blues and the moody lighting. It's awesome, and just really resonated with me. So for this alone, in my personal opinion, if I sold you on that, oh man, this issue is really, really good for that alone. Might just be like my favorite backup story I've read in Captain America. I don't know. It's really, really good. They do a good job with backup stories to begin with, but this one was just blew my mind, man. Blew it wide open, and I knew most, not all, but most of the events that they referenced. But even then, since it's in such a different light, literally, than what we're used to, it was great to see. I'm gonna have to cut this video short, actually. It's long enough as it is. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, check out my other videos. I've done other things involving Captain America. I've covered the entire Captain America, the Captain Omnibus, reviewed it for like, what, friggin' 20 minutes, something like that. You got a ton of issues here that I just covered, and I got another video coming out of Captain America real shortly where I cover the rest of the issues that I showed here at first. I got the annual that I just did a video on. Check it out, man. Aloha.